Morning, everyone. Monday morning here. That weekend went so fast. This is day 27. We've only got a few more days to go. And I was contemplating what I want. Good morning, whoever it is. Morning, I can't see you. I'm doing my live on my phone this morning, so it doesn't show things properly. It doesn't show comments and everything like that. I can just see that I have people on with me. So good morning. Now, as I said, I was contemplating it's not necessarily what I wanted to share with you. It's almost like every morning I wait and watch to see what organically is showing up as information that I need to share with you. So I tap into it more intuitively. Now, this morning, it's not just one thing, it's actually two things. And I've tried to sort of like push one of them away, but I have not been successful. So for some reason, they are coming up and they're intertwined. They relate to each other in some way for all of us today and in moving forward. So yes, we are going to be tapping out our cortices. Yes, it's day 27 out of day 30. There's two things that I want to just bring to our attention so that we have a soft focus on it when we go to tap out our cortices. The first thing is looking at the brain from the perspective of evolution and how it has progressed since, we started out as human beings, right? What we do know and what science is showing us is that these new little human beings that are coming into the planet are born with more advanced prefrontal cortexes. The front of the brain is more highly developed. It's actually more pronounced. It's getting bigger, right? So that is part of this developmental evolution piece that we're seeing come up. It also means that a lot of our kids don't fit with the existing teaching system that we have available to them. It doesn't match. So it needs to go through rapid change in order for them to be able to really learn and integrate information. So that little piece there. As far as brains and evolution goes, the way that we started out really was with this part of the brain called the reptilian brain. And when we think of the reptilian brain, we think of the entire spinal complex all the way down to the bottom. And then at the top of the spinal complex, we have this part of the brain known as the reptilian brain, right? And what's happened is through evolution and all through the generations, this other part of the brain has started to integrate out over the top of it, and it's known as the limbic brain or the limbic system. And then out over the top of that, we have the cortex layer of the brain. So now we have this prefrontal cortex, which is starting to get more pronounced and do very, very rapid processing, very high learning, critical thinking, right? So that's the first part that I want to share with you. Today our focus is going to be on reptilian brain, limbic brain, cortex region of the brain, and this prefrontal cortex. The other part is, and I can't remember what day I talked about this on, but I'm going to print a list so everyone can find what they need at the end of the 30 days. On whatever day it was, I introduced the amygdala and we talked about that for a moment. The big thing that's coming up for me today that I need to talk about for whatever reason is how there are so many people, and I mean so many. If you're one person that thinks that it doesn't apply to you, what most probably does apply to you is that the amygdala at some point in time in your past, or it still is, going through profound trauma or stress, especially if it's prolonged, right, for a long period of time. If people endure stress for years and years and years, one of the things that happens is that the amygdala gets fried, just absolutely loses itself and stops being able to do its job properly. And you can see malfunctions in the way that it doesn't work properly anymore, but also you can see distortions in the shape of it. What we know happens now is that if the amygdala gets so sick, and remember the amygdala is associated with fight, flight, freeze mechanism. So people that are over defensive, want to defend themselves all the time, it can very well be an amygdala complex issue. people that have poor reasoning, and I was giving this an enormous amount of thought the other day because I heard something on the radio. There was a police officer that had gone corrupt and done something pretty silly with money and drugs and all that type of thing. And one of the people that we interviewed said, you know, I've known this person nearly all my life. Never in a million years did I think that they would do this thing. The thing is that that person probably has been subjected to and seen an enormous amount of chaos and trauma and been under a lot of pressure and endured a lot of stress for a long period of time. It blows the circuitry in the amygdala. Then you have an amygdala that is not functioning properly, which means that you have a person that doesn't think correctly. They don't think rationally. They make poor choices, really, really, really poor choices. So then you do have police officers and other people in positions of hierarchy that have been under prolonged stress for a long period of time. They will go and make decisions and do things that is normally out of character, that they normally in a million years wouldn't do, and they're normally extremely remorseful. So I know there was somebody, I can't remember their name off the top of my head, that went into US prison and taught the inmates in one section how to tap out their cortices. Now, inmates, their amygdala would be completely blown, right? Circuitry gone. Their ability to be able to think about consequences, really, really poor. Their ability to be able to do deductive reasoning and figure out, you know, if I do this, what would be the result from this? Or what does that look like for me long term? Or what does that, you know, reflect on me and my values? Does it sit with me right? So there's none of that there. Absolutely none of it. So you will see people make really poor decisions very, very quickly and go and steal cars. So we were teaching people how to tap out their cortices, and what it showed is that by doing cortices technique every day, and remember you can't hurt yourself, so you can do it 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day, is that it rebooted the amygdala and it repaired the amygdala. The other thing that I wanted to share with you is that, and so that's a big deal, right? Because then if the amygdala repairs itself and you've got an amygdala that can think clearly and reason and be able to look at things long term, and it's almost like having one that just knows how to take a step back, a nice big deep breath, look at the bigger picture of things, and then join the conversation and say, you know what, that's just not right. So that would make an enormous change to an individual's life where they could be released from prison and not have a tendency or a thought to go and steal a car again, right? So the amygdala complex is a very, very big deal. What we have seen in imaging, but also they've noticed it when they've had to do autopsies, is that when the amygdala gets so fried, like completely lost sight of itself, is that this is where the innate wisdom kicks in. It says, oh gosh, I really need a better functioning amygdala. So what can I do? And what it's doing is it's more often than not building another amygdala out the side of itself. So we're seeing an amygdala complex that literally has no working content to it whatsoever. Whoops, I dropped my mic, sorry. So we're seeing an amygdala complex that literally has very poor functioning, very poor reasoning, lack of circulation, lack of communication, all that type of stuff, growing another one out the side of itself just to try and save itself. So that to me is remarkable. That to me shows that the body is always in this process of trying to heal itself. It will just look for the best way possible. So maybe it's given you a different perspective on when people make poor choices. Like think about teenagers, you know, if they've done a lot of drinking, by the time, I'll tell you what, I've done so many sessions for teenagers this year that have been at the end of their rope. I mean, really, really serious stuff that you would be extremely concerned about whether they're okay or not. And it's stress from school. From our schooling system causes that, seriously. So their amygdala complex is blown. We've got 17, 18-year-olds running around out there making very, very poor choices because their amygdala circuitry is blown. So today, let's tap out our cortices, but let's give some loving to the amygdala, because there is a chance that yours has been blown, the circuitry is not functioned properly at some point in your life, or it is like that now. I really don't know of many people that would have super well-functioning amygdalas, right? So let's give some loving to the amygdala. Let's maybe have a different perspective of what people are going through. When you see behaviours, don't take it personally. Maybe look a little bit deeper and go, that's somebody that probably has a blown amygdala. Maybe I'll teach them cortices, okay? And the other thing is, look at these different evolutionary levels of the brain. So we have the reptilian brain, sits right in the base of the skull there, and we think of that because it goes all the way down the spinal complex. Then the part that's grown over the top of the reptilian brain, the limbic system. Then we have the cortex, and we have the prefrontal cortex at the front there, right? So just soft focus. The attention's on the brain. The intention is on improving communication and circulation, really between the whole brain, all regions, okay? So let's go ahead. Nice big deep breath. Second hand position. Third. I'll move down a little bit so you can see the top of my head. So if you're just joining me for the first time, we're tapping over the head brain, we're tapping over the heart brain, and we're tapping over the gut brain, which is about an inch above the belly button. But if you're sort of tapping over the gut area, then you're doing well. Next hand position. Depending on the size of your head and the size of your hand, it's going to be 4 or 5 hand positions all the way around to the front. And all the way around to the front of the brain. I feel like just doing one more here. Let's go ahead, tap out the temporal lobes. So, on the side of the head, fingers are together, nice soft hands. Take a couple of nice big deep breaths in and out. One hand away, tapping in head brain, heart brain, gut brain, and again. That's excellent. Thank you. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. Any comments, any realizations from any of that at all, then pop it in the comments. Thanks everyone. Have a great day. Bye.